the failure of the jack screw and the loss of 88 lives. But why did this happen at Alaska Airlines?
We're not getting any oxygen. We have the terrain alarm. Aero 603.
We are in an emergency.
This is a true story. The reconstructions are based on original eyewitness accounts. The investigators' attention now switched to the company's maintenance program. What emerged was deeply worrying.
We interviewed all the mechanics who had worked on these airplanes. We knew that they had been falsifying records or not doing the work they had indicated.
The mechanics at Alaska complained that they were pressured to keep the planes in the air, or that their recommendations were overruled by supervisors. Some alleged that records were altered to show work done that was not done. John Liotine was a former lead mechanic at Alaska Airlines Oakland maintenance facility, where he worked for over 8 years. Liotine felt that the new pressures on maintenance put passengers' lives at risk. He was to pay dearly for expressing those concerns. We have used an actor to portray his experiences based on his sworn evidence to the NTSB. Liotine claimed that planes were pushed back into service too quickly. Sometimes, rather than wait for a replacement part or repair, supervisors passed planes fit for service, free to carry passengers up into the air. In October 1998, over 15 months before the crash, John Liotine became so worried that he did something that would change his life forever. He reported Alaska Airlines to the US Department of Transportation, alleging violations in maintenance procedures.
There were very few voices at Alaska who had concerns about the maintenance. There should have been more, and there should have been people listening. John Liotine is a hero in my book.
In December 1999, over a year before the crash, the FAA and Department of Transportation officials moved on Alaska Airlines. The case was referred to federal prosecutors, and the FBI raided Alaska's maintenance facilities and seized thousands of records. The raid was the opening shot in a federal grand jury investigation that would last 3 years. No criminal charges were brought against the airline. Alaska officials denied that any unsafe planes were put into service or that passengers' lives were ever at risk. But the investigation revealed hundreds of violations of federal regulations. Alaska Airlines was fined. The FAA insisted on changes to the company's maintenance and safety procedures. The FAA also suspended 2 supervisors for falsifying records. Like other whistleblowers, John Liotine would pay heavily for his efforts to save lives. Alaska put him on paid leave from his job, losing him thousands of dollars in regular overtime earnings. Then in January 2000, John Liotine saw his worst nightmare come true. The kind of accident he had tried to prevent now took place just off the California coast. After the loss of Flight 261, Liotine went back to his private work records. Incredibly, he found he had a direct link to the crashed airliner. 2 years before, at the plane's last overhaul, he had ordered that the jack screw on this very aircraft be replaced. He then went off shift. When investigators examined the record, they found that Liotine's recommendation had been overruled by the next shift and the plane put back into service. It would be 2 years before the next overhaul, but time ran out. 4 months before the overhaul was due, Flight 261 crashed. Alaska Airlines labeled Liotine a disruptive influence. He sued the company for libel. Alaska settled, but Liotine could no longer work in the industry he loved.
I get calls almost every week of somebody saying, should I blow the whistle? And I always tell them, you need to know, you need to be prepared to find another line of work, because you will not work in the industry and you will not work in the government. In most cases, it's almost impossible to be a whistleblower and survive your career.